everyone, I am Pixelric, an engineer that is trying to learn how to draw pixel art, and today I'm coming at you with another pixel log. So, it is the new year now, we are in January, but during the holiday season I was watching a lot of Christmas movies, and one of the Christmas movies that I really loved watching was a movie called Klaus. It's on Netflix, and it's kind of about the origin story of Santa Claus, and that's about all the information I'll give you. But while I was watching the movie, I was feeling particularly inspired to draw some of the characters that were in the movie. Um, I thought it would be a kind of a cool exercise. They're really fun characters, and I was just feeling in the holiday spirit. So this video is about me drawing some of these characters and then also getting a little bit of practice in drawing an environment for these characters to live in. So I'll start off with the characters. The two characters I drew were Klaus and Jesper, which are kind of the two main characters in the film. So I'll start off with walking you through the Klaus sprite, which is this sprite here on top. Klaus is kind of a larger, grizzly old toy maker. So that was kind of what I was trying to capture in this this sprite. So for both of these, I started off with attempting to do some line work, and I also did base this off of a reference image, which I'll pull up now. So this is the reference image I was basing it off of. This is Klaus, and then this is Jesper here. So you can kind of see the pose that Klaus is in. He's standing wide and tall. He has a big bag slung over his shoulder. Um, so that was kind of the pose I wanted to strike here. When doing the line work, the biggest challenge I had was trying to figure out how to draw the right arm. You can see I kind of got the jacket and the face and the one arm in the pocket kind of down pretty well. But getting that arm along with the bag of toys behind the sprite proved difficult for me. So I took a slightly different approach where I just decided let's move on from the outline and start coloring it in, and then I'll figure it out later. So this was kind of my first attempt of coloring. I picked, I picked my own palette here, which was cool. Um, and yeah, I think the hair and the beard kind of worked out pretty well. He also has thick black eyebrows, so I kind of captured that in his facial expression. Um, yeah, moving on, I just started to color more, and then this is when I started to draw the arm. So I drew the bag, of toys behind in a different shade of orange. I used the same orange to match the belt here, and then I kind of had, the arm loop up and around to a hand to grab it. And for me, it was easier to kind of draw this out with color rather than trying to do it over here in pure outlines. I then was trying to keep these sprites, to 32 by 32, just because I'm trying to still draw smaller. So I did, you notice the bag was a bit above that restriction here, so I kind of just shrunk the sprite down a bit. I think I might start going away from that restriction. Like I'll still draw a small sprite, but the 32 by 32 restriction is really arbitrary at the end of the day. So yeah, this is kind of the first revision of the sprite, and then I kind of went through and did some other edits um, to end up with this version of the sprite. So I think the thing I was most proud of in this sprite was kind of how I updated the hand here. Um, the hand here previously it was just kind of next to the bag here, but I kind of got this effect here where the hand was actually grasping the bag, and this is kind of the opening of the bag that was being held. I'm pretty proud of how that kind of turned out when you look at it from afar. The other thing that I did was added some, wrinkling to the clothes here as well as down here, just to give it a little bit more interest. And I think that worked out well. And then I also just kind of smoothed out the beard here compared to the other one. It was a bit square here, so I just kind of smoothed it out. And yeah, this is my Klaus sprite with a custom palette. I took colors inspiration obviously from my reference image, and I think the biggest lesson here was the usefulness of using this reference image. It gave me a pose to go off of and the main features of the character to go off of, and I think that was really useful as I was kind of getting started. So the next character I drew was Jesper, which Jesper is a mailman in the movie. So he's obviously a lot smaller than Klaus, but I still drew him at a 32 by 32 pixel scale. Um, Obviously, maybe as I get more practice, I'll maybe draw Klaus bigger just to get that difference in scale. But I wasn't really going for total accuracy at this point. Um, yeah, this is my process of drawing Jesper. So Jesper was a bit of a hard shape to get at first. Again, I tried with this outline, pixel art line work style approach, and the shape was pretty hard. Kind of had this weird triangle shape. It just didn't really look like anything. I also had trouble drawing the arms again. So I then just kind of moved into coloring. So I just did some very basic coloring here. Colored in the legs, one color just to give it a bit of depth compared to, his mailman suit above him. And then I went in and added a bit more detail. I filled out the face with a nice shadow. You might recognize this face from a certain YouTube logo. Yeah, so I kind of repurposed it for that. But yeah, I'm happy with how the face turned out. And then I added these like little gold studs on his shoulder pads, just as a bit of an extra detail. And then the jump from this to the final sprite was pretty big. And I'm really actually pleased with how this turned out. I got to this point in the sprite here. I'll move it over. I got to this point in the sprite here where I was just kind of like, okay, I need to figure out the arms, right? And I knew I wanted to draw a mailbag on him. So this is kind of my first experience working in layers. So you'll kind of see if I take out the mailbag and the arm layers, you'll see like the sprite. Obviously, there's a lot of differences still, but it's mostly the same shape. So I started by kind of drawing this mailbag in across his shoulder. This just helps kind of break up his body here, and it also gave a subject for his arm to kind of touch. So then I added this arms layer. I drew this arm kind of down with a hand to touch it. And then I also got a bit of experience with drawing an arm out and over to hold an envelope. And yeah, this was a bit of a challenge getting the shading to kind of make this arm stand out on top of the body, but I think it went pretty well, and I'm proud of kind of powering through this. I also touched up the hat up here to make it more to make it a bit more detailed, not as like lumpy, I guess you would call this. And then I also fixed up the feet and shrunk the sprite down to the 32 by 32. Yeah, that was me drawing the Jesper sprite. So now I have these kind of two characters, and I was feeling inspired to make kind of a scene for them to both live in. Um, so the scene I wanted to pick in the movie, there's kind of this, Christmas village of sorts. Here's the reference image I used, where you have, all these different vendors. You have, the string lights up above, um, and I kind of wanted to recreate this. So what I did was this. This was the end result. So the very first thing I drew was kind of an outline of the structure, um, just to kind of get a sense of what I wanted to draw. I was trying to get the peaks of these houses, um, and then the next thing I kind of drew was the houses. So you can kind of see the outline shifted, but I still have the general idea where I have these two peaks, you know. Um, and I'll hide the outline here. So I kind of have these two peaks that kind of correspond to the reference art you guys saw before, and then I tried to draw a couple of stalls throughout. So I have some stalls with just a thinner table, and these stalls were meant to be more of like a display case. I tried to get some depth in here with shadowing to kind of show a more like you know upward diagonally angled display case with some shelves on it. um, it looks a bit more obvious when I start filling out the rest of it, but that was kind of my idea here. I then drew in some Christmas garland to kind of decorate the buildings. So this is where I brought in some green and yellow, and yeah, I kind of drew that in. Um, yeah, I kind of did a lot of copying and pasting and maybe just moving around certain segments. So like I would kind of for this, I started off by drawing this side from scratch, and then I kind of mirrored it on here, and I just kind of selected some pieces of garland and like shifted it around a bit and cleaned it up. I'm just trying to give you the sense of how I did it here to kind of get that pseudo randomness here. So it doesn't necessarily look like a carbon copy of each other, but I didn't spend a lot, time just manually placing all these pixels. So that was a cool technique. Moving on after that, I decided to draw out the background. So I kind of gave a snowy floor with a night sky. Um, and then next thing I did was I wanted to fill in some of these stalls with like a little light here. So this is very challenging for me to get this light effect. I'm not thrilled with how it looks, but I kind of basically took the blue planks I had behind and then recolored them to with this like orangey, dark orangey thing, and I kept the shading the same. And then I added this light source here and kind of shaded according to that, just to get the effect that like, the light is on, this stall is kind of open, you know. That was kind of the goal there. I then went ahead and added some string lights up above, just connecting the peak to get a bit more interest up here. And then I added in some items in the shop. And this was kind of fun because I kind of got to draw a couple of different types of things. So just running through these, these are meant to be some. This is meant to be a bakery stall. So I've got some bowls of bread here. I got some baguettes. I was trying to reuse the same brown color as in the Klaus sprite. So the brown's not the best here, but I was trying to, keep that pixel art aesthetic of not adding too many different colors. So yeah, I'm kind of okay with how this turned out. I was mainly just trying to avoid this from looking like a bunch of piles of poop, and I think I did that. Let me know what you think though. Moving on here, I have a stall with some pottery in it, so this meant to just be a couple of pots. We'll see when we add the characters in here. It kind of blocks off this area, so I didn't add a pot here. Um, Moving on, I added some fish here. Same story here with the fish being cut off. There was a character standing in front of it eventually, so I didn't draw this in. But this meant to be, a stall with some fish on the shelves for sale. Here I have some like wood carved statues. This was just kind of fun to see what I could do with a couple of pixels. Turned out kind of cool. They're kind of fun. Um, and then this was just meant to be kind of a pile of clothes, I guess you'd say. I tried to get like just a stack of shirts or pants or whatever in a couple of different colors. Again, if you notice, I actually tried to reuse the same colors from across the artwork. So this orange here is actually the same orange I used in the lighting. This brown is the same brown I used for the toys and the bread. The green is the same as the garland, and the blue is the same as the buildings. Then finally, I'll drop in my two characters here, just kind of standing and at the Christmas market. Um, I gave them a bit of shadow just to make them feel real in the world. Um, and yeah, this is kind of the scene I sought out to build. Um, my kind of thoughts on it. Having the two characters just kind of standing here in front of the background, it does look a bit disjointed. Um, I feel like finding a way to try and get them, to look more part of the environment uh, is something I struggled with, and this is kind of the best I could come up with. I kind of need to learn a couple more techniques on how to do that. Um, but yeah, this is by far the biggest piece I've made so far. Um, but yeah, obviously lots to improve. And then the other thing I kind of wanted to do, I kind of envisioned them, these two characters, Klaus and Jesper, sending out a Christmas card. So I kind of tried to make this into a Christmas card by adding a little banner up top saying, Merry Christmas from Klaus and Jesper. So I got to practice a bit of, typography and, kind of doing the banner. Um, I really wanted to keep this the same size that it was, just because the canvas size I chose for this was very intentional to keep the 16:9 ratio. Um, this meant that I kind of had to cut off a night sky above, which to me kind of makes the whole card look worse. But it is what it is. I kind of maybe should have planned it out a bit better from the beginning rather than just trying to make it into a Christmas card at the end here. But still, it looks pretty cool. And yeah, like I said, by far the biggest piece I've worked on so far, and this took me all through kind of the holiday season. Obviously, I'm posting it after the holiday season a bit late, but yeah, I've been working hard on this one. So let me know what you think down in the comments. And yeah, thanks for joining this Pixel number 2, and I'll catch you guys next time for the next one.